I believe that illiteracy is a problem that needs to be solved. If it was, then the world would be a better place for everyone, perhaps even raising their living standards. Illiteracy is worldwide. People think that the U.S. isn't affected, but it is. In some states, the literacy rate is rather low. Compared to the rest of the world, we have it easy. But it's low, especially since most think illiteracy doesn't affect them. It doesn't just concern those who are illiterate, but let's pause for a moment and watch a clip from ABC on illiteracy in America.
Tonight we begin a special look at a crisis that is largely hidden in this country, illiteracy. 7 million people are completely illiterate. They cannot read a word. 27 million Americans cannot complete a job application. 30 million cannot read a simple sentence.
Can you imagine the hardships that those hindered by illiteracy must face?
Describe the stress of a doctor's visit.
It paralyzes your thoughts completely to think that you may say something or something is put before you to read and you can't read it.
For nearly all of her 45 years, Monica Baxley has lived with a crippling secret.
I cried a lot over this when I was alone.
Baxley was functionally illiterate. She quit school in the 9th grade and for 3 decades kept her secret from friends, family, even her husband.
I didn't want to be exposed beyond anything else. That was the most important thing, not for no one to ever learn.
Her travel limited because she was unable to read road signs, unable to read a newspaper or food labels in a supermarket.
I didn't know who or what to vote.
I interviewed a Mr. Pouring Lamb, and here's what he had to say. When I was 12, I feel really frustrated. It takes time to figure out what something says. If I could read, I could have a better job or job position. The world is better with words because it's about communication and learning how to communicate. You can leave messages, ideas for people to look at. Some believe that illiteracy is a problem. Scott Douglas, in his article, "Is Illiteracy So Bad?" which is incorrect in capitalizing the so, said, "Reading can be boring, suggest ideas about how to destroy things, and give voice to people who shouldn't have one, in addition to a platform to voice that voice." He points out that books take up quite a bit of space, and that libraries can be put to better uses, such as fueling the attention deficit by showing 5 or 10-minute slices of entertainment to prevent wasting patrons' time, or worse, boring their minds. Douglas proposes getting rid of words and replacing them with graphics to provide fulfillment. In this illiterate world, he predicts that once speaking, words will seem unnecessary, so it will be advisable to speak in abbreviations until they seem boring, which he then says rhyming/singing will sound agreeable to the ear. I found this article disturbing. Illiteracy is a real problem, as I've said before. For example, 20% of high school seniors can be classified as being functionally illiterate at the time they graduate. 70% of prisoners in state and federal systems can be classified as illiterate. 85% of all juvenile offenders rate as functionally or marginally illiterate. 43% of those with the lowest literacy skill live in poverty. Low literacy skills also happens to cost the U.S. over $225 billion a year because of inefficiency in the workforce, loss of taxes due to the unemployed, welfare, and crime. Literacy has many positive effects. International studies have shown that literate mothers are more likely to enroll their children in school. In fact, children with literate parents are also more prepared to enter school knowing how to read than children with illiterate/less literate parents. Those who are illiterate better understand doctors' orders and disease prevention pamphlets, which are beneficial to their family, as it keeps them healthier than those who cannot do those things. But for those who are deficient in health literacy, it costs the U.S. about $230 billion in health care. For Douglas, this all can be solved by simply getting rid of words. After all, if directions on how to prevent the spread of colds were just photos of people washing their hands and sneezing in their elbows, wouldn't it be easier for people to understand? But by limiting ourselves to graphics, we would lose, for one, our self-expression. There's a fictional book by Pat Smatz in which one of the main characters is illiterate. Travis is a teen who's managed to keep his grandfather and most others from figuring out. When he moves, he meets a girl nicknamed Velveeta who has her own problems, and they both help each other. With the support of his English teacher, Mr. McQueen, and Velveeta, he eventually begins to comprehend what were previously to him squiggles. On a related note, Bob C. Klecker wrote a non-fiction title called Let's End Our Literacy Crisis, which provides insight into American illiteracy and how to solve it. Replacing all words with graphics may solve the problem of illiteracy, but it doesn't solve all of the problems related to it. Those who are illiterate find it hard to get a rewarding education or rise higher in life, so they resort to crime. Getting rid of illiteracy in itself does not get rid of the problem of not receiving an adequate education. As Peter S. Jennison said, children deprived of words become school dropouts. Dropouts deprived of hope behave delinquently. Amateur censors blame delinquency on reading immoral books and magazines, when in fact, the inability to read anything is the basic trouble. FightIlliteracy.org says that without English and essential educational skills, families and adult learners cannot achieve their full potential. Increasing literacy decreases social problems, poverty, crime, and healthcare costs. Illiteracy isn't just the inability to read and write. If you're illiterate, your life, overall, is worse than someone who is.